Hi everyone, give a big round of applause to Pullela Gopichand. So continuing the day, we've had a distinguished speaker, Dr. Senthil, already addressed the crowd. And for the second talk of the day, we have Pullela Gopichand, who's going to come here and converse with us in a talk show format, which will be hosted by Deepak. So Deepak, I would request you to come here and lay an intro for Gopichand to come here and join you on stage.
Good evening, everyone. Let's start with a big round of applause for Gopi. Gopi, before you were coming here and when we announced on the board that you're coming in, so you cannot imagine the number of WhatsApps I've received that can you give me 1 minute with Gopi? I want to have a selfie with him. So I hope we'll have enough time for that later. So, but we'll start the conversation. Gopi, first of all, deeply, deeply indebted to you for taking your time and coming here. Thank you for being with us on this leadership talk series. We do this every year as part of our celebration of excellence. It's about us talking to people who have been outstanding in their field and are able to share their stories and inspire the rest of Dr. Reddy. So thank you, Gopi, for coming here. Thank you. So let's have one more round of applause. Gopi, I want to start with something very simple. Maybe if you can just walk us through your journey. I think everybody's keen to hear from you, and then we'll get going on the questions. So.
Good evening, everyone. For me, it's only by God's grace chance that I took up the sport. My father worked in a bank, so we were moving places growing up. 3 years in Orissa, 3 years in Chennai, 3 years in coastal Andhra in Prakasham district, Ongole. And we landed up in Hyderabad around 84, a time when everybody in the country was super inspired to play cricket. I was also the same living in Matrushri apartments in Hyderabad. I broke a few window panes and my mother thought the neighbors will complain, and the next time they complained, she took me to the stadium to join cricket. And unfortunately, cricket admissions were full. And I actually went out to the next popular sport then, which was tennis. Many years later, I didn't know why they walked out and we went to badminton. They told me that there were too many cars parked outside. And that's the reason we didn't take up tennis. And I went to the badminton court because it was empty. This is the reality of why I took the sport up. But when I won the All England, one of the largest circulating newspapers in the country wrote a big article saying that when I picked up the racket, I dreamt I'll be an All England champion. So very important lesson, don't trust the press. So this is how my start of badminton was. Today, when we look at the sport, we are looking at medals, we're looking at India being big, Hyderabad having a large contribution to Indian badminton. But back in the day, 1985, the sport itself was not as big, especially even by Indian standards. We didn't have a national champion from Andhra Pradesh then. And for us to even to dream about winning a nationals was big. So for me, I never knew what life would go about playing badminton. And a typical Telugu family, maths, physics, chemistry. So that's how I started my life. Add to my problems, my brother went to IIT. So it was a tough life growing up. Uh, I also wrote the engineering exam. Luckily, I failed. And my parents said, you can play 1 year of badminton, and if you win, then you can continue playing at the national level. This was kind of around 1991. I That year I joined BA, went to the college to ask them which was the easiest subjects. They said economics, political science, and public administration. I took that subjects, played. Luckily that year I won the junior nationals. I played for the country in a Malaysia series. And most importantly, I got a job in Tata Steel. And that was the beginning of my badminton career, much further from the truth which the paper had written. This is really my beginning of my badminton career, 1991, after the job in Tata Steel. Because my mom thought this fellow will go waste. One brother goes to IIT, this brother don't know where. So she applied to every corporate in the country. And luckily, Tata Steel gave me a job. So she said, now you can play, you do what you want. So that is how my badminton career has been. But also the fact is that between 1980 and 1991, why I'm saying 1980 is 1980 is when Prakash Padukone, for the younger folks, Deepika Padukone's father. He won the All England in 1980. And when he won the All England in 1980, the standards of badminton were very high. But between 1980 and 1990-91, the standards of the sport had really gone down. And for me, the real story of Indian badminton lies in those 28 years. 1994, India was not sent to the Asian Games and not sent to Commonwealth Games. Asian Games, I can imagine, because China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Korea, Japan, whatever, these countries. Commonwealth Games, we did not fulfill the norm of top 6 of Commonwealth nations. I am wondering, Malaysia, okay, England, okay. But what, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and I don't know which other country. So we were actually not capable, or the government didn't see us good enough to be in the top 6 of Commonwealth nations. That in 1994 to Thomas Cup champions or the world champions of team championships in 2022. That for me is the real growth of Indian badminton, and that has been. So I think I'll try to briefly cut short the timelines a little bit. So 91, 92, things were looking better. There was a Chinese coach who came to India to train us because we were a poor country. From a badminton perspective. So on an exchange program he came. Luckily for me, he was very, very helpful. He was super helpful and I started to do well. He showed us what to do, what hard work would be. And I started to play well. 92, 93 were really good. I beat a top 20 player in the world. I beat a couple of them in the 30s. And I started to tell, at least among our teammates, that boss, I have the capability to beat. And everybody was thinking that I'll be good. 1994, I was the number 1 in the country. I was India's lone entry at the World Cup. And things were looking very good. But in 1994, at the National Games in Pune, I actually was playing the men's doubles semi-final, having reached the men's singles finals to be played in the evening. In the morning, I was playing. I was moving backwards. My partner, Vijay Raghavan, was moving sideways. Both of us collided. He landed on my foot, and I tore the anterior cruciate ligament of my left knee in 1994. Back then and even now, I don't think there's a men's singles player who's ever come back from a surgery of that nature, because it's a tough one to come. It was tough for me. It took me a year to come back and start playing again. But again, after a year of decent results, having beaten the All England champions and Olympic champion Ellen Budi Kusuma, I again fell down in Glasgow at the World Championships, had to come back for another surgery on the same knee. And my doctor, luckily I had a great doctor called Dr. Ashok Rajgopal in Delhi. He did my second surgery. I came back again, played, beat the Olympic champion of 1996, Paul Eric Hoyle-Larsen, but also came back in 98 for my third surgery. Between 98 and 2001, I didn't have many surgeries and I didn't have any big injuries. And that's when I won the Commonwealth or All England or Asian Championships or what all of those titles
So
came.
Gopi just said it, I won the All England Championship. I think that's the biggest deal possible in badminton. So, sorry, it was.
Yeah, it was very big, very important in our in our minds. It's like the Wimbledon of tennis, from a reference perspective. But then, when I came back and I was flying back, I was like, boss, I know what needs to be done. I will rule world badminton for the next few years is what I had in mind. And I came back and I started training. And that year, my right side of the body started giving way. I tore two metatarsals in my right foot. I had a stress fracture of my ankle. And finally, a year later, that's in 2002, August, I had a right knee overuse injury because over the years I'd put too much pressure on my right knee with the multiple surgeries on my left. So for me, that was very sad because I really thought that I knew the formula to win at the highest level in the world. But unfortunately, that year was terrible because I just couldn't play enough. But I would go back to the stadium every day because that's the only thing I knew. I actually had a joke at the uh, stadium, which people would say is, I had a scooter, Bajaj Chetak 5272. They said, "Iska radius 1 kilometer hai, isko bahar mat leke jao," because it would go from stadium to house and nowhere else. Because my life revolved only around the stadium. But unfortunately, that year, I still had injuries. I couldn't participate. And slowly, I would come to the stadium. And if my body was good, I would play. If it was hurting, I would coach. Slowly, the days I coached became more, and the days I played became less. So, in the year 2003, I took a bunch of kids to Jubilee Club and started coaching them as a camp. I was playing, I was coaching, and that is how I started off. And I was still playing, but in 2004, what happened is I actually conducted a tournament. I was coaching, I was playing, and I was instrumental in organizing an Asian satellite event. I won the tournament, but I also beat players whom I was coaching. So that night was terrible for me because the player in me wanted me to win, the coach in me wanted me to lose. And that night, somewhere in the middle of the night, I decided I'll stop playing. And literally, I didn't compete after that night. But for me, 2000 April, Ugadi Day was important because that's when I took a bunch of kids and I said, I will use the formula on them. I wish somebody had told me what it takes, the physicality, the mentality, the technical awareness, the tactical things, to win at the highest level in the world. And I believed that we Indians had a chance. With that in mind, I started coaching a bunch of kids from Hyderabad. The oldest of them was Kashyap, who was 16 years old. He won the Commonwealth Games in 2014 after a gap of 32 years. We had a gold medal. Guru Sai Dutt, who's also now part of the Indian team coaching. So he was about 13. Saina was about 13. Sikki, Sumit, Sai Praneeth, who won the bronze at the World Championships in 2019, he was about 11. And Sindhu was the youngest of that group at 9. And with that bunch of people, I said, let me start coaching in the Gachibowli Stadium. And that is how my coaching career has started. I started coaching, then I realized when I was younger, the challenges which I had were very different. Today, when we look at sport, you say, I need sports science, nutrition, physiologists, psychologists, biomechanics, a lot of things, right? So back in the day, my challenges were very different. You go to the stadium, watchman nahi aaya. You go inside, current nahi hai. So these were the kind of, you go to the ground, shadi hua hai. So these were the fundamental things which, so for me, building infrastructure and having your own infrastructure was important. Because if we do Saturday, Sunday, if we do Diwali, Ramzan, Christmas, and then you're not going to produce champions. You need infrastructure which is available to you full time. Accommodation, food, travel, no travel, gym, recovery, all of these need to be in one place, badminton courts. So with that in mind, I thought we should build our own center. Luckily, the then government gave me a piece of land in Gachibowli, which is now the prime heart in some sense. But back in the day, it was the outskirts of Hyderabad, and we started to build. I thought building would be not so much of a challenge, but when you get inside, getting funds was pretty tough. The corporates would say CSR, they would say no, no, girl, child, health, sanitation. Sport doesn't fit into CSR. You go to sponsorship guys, they say boss cricket के अलावा कोई eyeballs नहीं है. So they won't give money. So I asked a lot of people, but it didn't really work out very well. Luckily, few people gave money. One of them was Matrix Dimagada Prasad. He gave an initial fund of 2 crores with which we started construction. And a few other people gave money, but we were really short of money. Finally, at a point of time, um, after some very bad experiences, I actually mortgaged my house in Jubilee Hills, got a 3 crore loan from it. My brother sent me some money from the US. My father, as a typical banker, put my 25 lakhs, which I got from the All England, in a bank, and it doubled to 50 lakhs in 2007. I put that money all in. I went and built the academy in Gachibowli. We went for the inauguration to the next government, and somehow somebody had put on file something wrong. And they said, we're going to take the land back because now it was prime property. So we had to fight a court case from 2008 to 14 and to get the land back. But in between, in 2006, Saina won the first women to win anything at the world level. In 2008, she was the first Indian to reach quarterfinals of the Olympics. 2009, we won our first world ranking tournament. 2010 was the first time we won women's medals at Commonwealth. 2011, we won our first World Championship medal. 2012, we won our first Olympic medal. 2013, we won our first Asian Games medal, Asian Championship medal. 2014, we won Commonwealth, Asian Games, when 2015, 16, like that. Every year on year, our performances have gone up, and culminating in some sense with the 2022 Thomas Cup win. And this year, we had the Asian Championship win of the girls. So there's a long way to go, but at least we've had Saina, Sindhu, Shrikant as world number ones. We had Satvik and Chirag as world number ones. And I do believe that there are more in the pipeline. And if God's grace continues the way it is, hopefully we'll produce more results. I'll stop here with this answer. Thank you.
Wow. This is so fascinating, Gopi. But what struck me was the constant evolution first from wanting to be a player, to becoming a player, to becoming a champion, to becoming a coach, to trying to set up your own academy. It's been a constant evolution as you moved along. And I guess it would have been difficult to let go of each previous stage as you moved on, to let go of your status as a player to become a full-time coach, and then move from just coaching to setting up an academy and creating a factory for talent. So how did you go through this process of evolution? How did you let go? Because it's not easy. I think even in a smaller setup, if somebody is doing something and you say, I want to do something else, which it's very difficult to let go the thing which you already have. How did you go through this process, Gopi?
Well, I think when I look back at my own journey, I think I never planned to be a badminton player in some sense. But every day I went, I worked hard. I would, I would like no doubt in the group that if somebody is pushing, I would be the one. That is the only thing which was constant. I didn't know if tomorrow I would get an engineering exam and this would be the last day of my badminton career. But if I played, I really gave it all I had. And everybody around me felt that this guy will not give up, kind of a thing. So that was very important. But I think over time, we are taught a lot of things, and we are taught about grit, about determination, about hard work. All of these are very big qualities. But for me, I think the ability to give up is also a very important quality. If I didn't give up being the player I was, I could have never been the coach I am. If I didn't give up some of the players whom I had, I could have never developed the next level of players whom I can. So for me, it's almost an analogy which I feel in my mind is like you're hanging off the cliff. Eventually you will fall, but might as well jump off the cliff when you have the energy to decide where to jump and bounce off to your next peak rather than fall off in shock. In some sense, that is how I would really look at it. If you have the wisdom to know that the juice in this is over, might as well jump off it to the next career. And to be able to know that, I think, is an important quality. And we've not been taught that because in our entire evolution, it's only grit, determination, and not giving up. But somewhere, I think the same vengeance to give up is also an important quality. And I think that should
So, I remember when we spoke day before yesterday, you spoke about personal accountability. You spoke about the integrity of the tan, man, dhan. I think the audience would be very interested in knowing more about that belief that you carried and shared with me the day before.
I think for me, I was very fortunate that whether it's my mom and dad or whether the few friends who I have actually have kept me very grounded. And it was very important because one of the two, three things which I'm sure have really helped me have been when I won the All England, a dear friend of mine, Pradeep, had made me write down the things which I want in my life. It's a very simple exercise. He said, write whatever you want in your life. You want a big house, big car, big family, like whatever you want, you just write. And I started writing and I thought it will be of many pages, but half page finished and I was done almost. The fact is, what he said afterwards, he said, you can aspire to want whatever you want. It's no problem. If you're 6 feet tall, if you aspire to have a bed which is 6 feet tall, it's fantastic. It's your necessity. If you want 7, 8, 9, 10 feet also, it's no problem. That's luxury, super duper luxury. But if you want a bed which is bigger than your neighbor's bed, then you'll always be in trouble because that's not what you would want. So I think these words have almost been a guiding principle for me all my life. And the second thing which was very important is for me, because at some stage after achieving the medals. Because what had happened was in our academy document, we had written winning an Olympic medal was our focus and target. But in 2012, we won the medal. Now what? It is a big question mark. And 2016, when we won the medal, then again the question mark. So I think Pradeep said something which was very interesting. He said, the three kinds of corruption. There is Dhan ka corruption, where there is a material corruption which happens, which is the usual form of corruption. But there's the second level of corruption, which is Tanka corruption, which is the bodily corruption, where you have the ability to push your body physically and you don't do that. That's also a sort of corruption which you should always check yourself from, which is a higher level of corruption than the Danka corruption. And the other corruption is Manka corruption, when you have the ability to achieve something huge and you don't do that. You're not mentally not visionary enough, or you're not thinking big enough, then that's also a kind of corruption. So I think check yourself on each front where you are. And I think that stayed with me. So whenever I feel, bas hai, I think this word just sticks on. And to be honest, this was never part of our plan. When we were friends, when we were young, as in 25, 26, when we were playing badminton, the thought was that if we win an All England World Championships or an Olympic medal, then for us, I've always, especially, I don't feel it now as much. To get up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning is, for me, luxury now, a pleasure for me. But back in the day, when you're younger, it was like, get up in the morning, run 10 kilometers, then do weights, and the body is hurting, and then it's day in and day out, just the same routine. So for us, we thought that if we win an All England or something, we would actually get up in the morning late at around 8, drink filter coffee, read newspaper, and then go to work by 11, work till 2, and then come back, have a nap, and play golf in the evening. So this is what the life we thought we'll have in case we make it really big. Unfortunately or fortunately, it didn't work out in that sequence. But yeah, I think every time you take a responsibility, I would get up and jump and play, jump out of bed, because that responsibility woke me up and never let me relax. The kids whose careers I was making in some sense doesn't make me rest as much. So it's been a great journey. I really love the journey, and it's turned out very differently. So it's always like I don't plan anything much. Each step I climb, I see the next is possible. I just try to climb that, and God's taken me much further. If I had a dream, if I had a goal, I'm sure it wouldn't have been as big as what I have been able to achieve. So I don't want to dream and have goals, because there are chances that I will always underdo them. And that's how this journey has been.
Thank you so much. I think this is so fascinating. So, this is your belief system. You spoke about this, but now you're dealing with a lot of coaches. You have a lot of young kids, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the world today is different from the world in the 90s. So there's just so much pressure. There is the weight of expectations. Somebody's got into your academy. Obviously, people are dreaming of their son or daughter to be the next All England champion. So, how do you bring this together? How do you deal with the pressure of expectations, not just on yourself, but also on all the people you're coaching? Because it's easy for somebody to be vulnerable at that young age and succumb to the pressure of expectations.
Well, it's quite a challenge. I'll be honest. I may not have figured it out for all of them, because education, all of you can write an exam and everybody gets 100% mark is possible. In sport, if all of us have a race, only one is going to win. So that's the reality of sport. So we're looking at a huge failure rate if we count medals as the only yardstick for success. So to tell people and educate them that sport and physical activity gives you much more than medals, or even if you don't win a medal, you're a champion. That becomes a challenge because people's mindset would be that I have spent 10 years of my life, 5 years of my life on the sport. What has it given me? I think somewhere that understanding of sport need to change. So this conversation happens, but it's a difficult conversation to have because it's very emotionally driven and not scientifically spoken in that sense. So we have these challenges. But we have this new generation of people who are not afraid. So we're dealing with another bunch, which is very different. And small example, when we went for 2000 Sydney Olympics, maybe 5 to 10% of the team went to win medals or thought of winning as important. 2016, 2024, when I went, you just see that although we win very less medals, the younger generation wants to prove and wants to win. Now, there is a difference in the way India thinks and Indian youth think, and they're not afraid of competition. And so there are a lot of pluses with the young generation of players. They're unafraid, they're like solid. But yes, they need to think long term. You need to be in the game long enough and be in an uncomfortable zone long enough to get results. That's the fundamental issue. So we still manage to find those beautiful people who are able to achieve those successes and who enjoy the hard work. But I think sometimes to tell them that, boss, just stay and things will be better 2 years from now, 3 years from now is a bit of a challenge. So the way we interact is different. The way we set the goals up is very different now than what it was a few years ago.
Right, right. And, obviously it calls for, it calls for building a very high intensity culture that you're giving your best, you're giving your 100%, and, that getting backed up with the right kind of performance, which would, if the process goes through, eventually maybe result in good outcomes. So that high performing culture, and you have a lot of people who you're coaching at the same time. So how do you generate that high performance culture within the team? How do you get those people to think more or less with the same mindset that brought you to where you are?
I think people have like the way I look at it is it's very difficult if you have to be hardworking, disciplined, and gritty all the time. It's like if you have to end up coming to work with determination, hard work, and discipline all the time, it's going to be very difficult. You'll come because it's fun. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's passion, it's love, it's liking. So I think, and maybe 5, 10, 15% is grit and determination. So inherently, you want people who are happy playing the sport. That's the first thing I would really look. People who are saying in the morning, and we start our sessions, like today's session also starts at 5. Earlier, we used to start at 4. But now with people not sleeping enough because of the gadgets, we are saying, okay, back off a little and let's start off at 5. But at 5, you want to see the faces which are bright and we are smiling and saying, I want to play. Those are the ones who will make it. Because the ones who are hardworking and disciplined doesn't get you all the time. So you need people who will actually spend most of their time in liking what they're doing. And a little bit of grit and determination is needed. At the end of training, you last set, you need to push. That is grit. But on first set, if there is grit and determination, then it's no fun. You're not never going to win. So I think it's important that the culture of the place is about fun, about excellence, about competition, people enjoying the competition. I think to make that happen is very critical. So you need people who are either the pointed part of the arrow or the stick of the arrow, because both are important. Not everybody is a champion, but you also want people who drive those champions from a coaching perspective and also from a team perspective. You need people in the team who are fun, who are loving, who are encouraging people and say, chal raha hai, bhagte hai. Chal yaar, utate hai, lift, wait karte. This is the kind of energy you want. You don't want parachutes in the team. And that is something which I'm careful about. That if you see parachutes in the team which is slowing down the progress of the group, then you kind of need to chop them off. It will be important. So that's one decision.
I think you made a great point about people wanting to do it, people thinking it's fun, people thinking it's passion. How do you choose? Well, I'm sure you get many more applicants to be your coaches than the numbers that you can handle. So how do you choose? How do you make that decision?
Initially, we picked everybody who came, but now with the numbers, we don't have, like, sport is different. Like an ISB has every time somebody comes, they leave after a year. As schools, after 10th, everybody leaves. Engineering, everybody leaves. So they have new admissions. For me, people who have played 20 years ago, some of them are still playing. So they don't leave, they win and stay. So for me, new admissions are not possible as many. So I think it's always a challenge because exiting and entry are tight spots. But for me, as I said, people for me at different levels are important. People say talent, right? So there's multiple levels of talent. People who have hand-eye coordination. That's the first basic thing. You need to hit the shuttle. People have good legs to run around. That's another leg set of talent. You get to one step and you say, boss, this guy has hand-eye, but he doesn't have the legs. You get to the next level, he has the physicality to run around, which is important. The next step, you would also have something like they know how to score a point. You play and then I can displace people here and score on the other side or repeat on the other side. That's an intelligence thing, which is very important. The next thing is also when you get your first prize money, what do you do with it? Are you investing back into the sport or are you happy buying a pair of sneakers or a bike? And then you get your job and you're happy with that and you back off. That's an important trait. Are you hungry after being full? That's an important trait. And then you go out and you lose to a certain player 10 times. And then have you got the mental awareness and the ability to relearn what you've done? To forget your foundations and redo the entire thing? Do you have the grit and determination to do it? I think that's an important thing. So at each level, there are challenges. And you need to be aware of what these possibilities are. And you will find different kinds of people. A diamond, which comes inherently shining, wanting to win, has the talent to win, want to push us on. Sometimes you have the talent, but you don't have the mental ability to push. That's one. Sometimes you have the talent, mental ability, but you don't want to fail. They also give up. So a lot of these things you have to be always on the watch for. But the inherent fundamental issue is happy to work, show up even after losing with enthusiasm to learn. I think these are important qualities which are important.
Happy to work, show up with enthusiasm even after losing. I think that's so true, and I think it can apply to any field of life. Fascinating. So you spoke of losing. Now these are a lot of young people, young children. How do you? Sport is about both winning and losing. It's about giving your best all the time. But how do you make people adjust to losing? How do people take losing? Uh, is it more from a setback sense or a learning sense? How do you react to losing, and how do you make the coaches react to losing?
Well, I think the way I talk to them would be that, boss, if everybody in the stadium thinks that you're losing also, you should not think that you're losing. You're thinking that I'm going to reverse it, even if the score is 20-0. You're saying, boss, ab to main yahan se jeetunga. That's the mindset you should have, and you should be planning and planning and planning. Plan A fail, plan B, plan C, whatever. Ups. And you have to trust, believe that, boss, I'm going to win. Not believe. You have to know that I'm winning. From here, मैं तो जीते रहा हूँ. That's the mindset you should, bottom line is have. But there is a point when the umpire says, boss, thank you very much. You lost the match. And he says, done with the score. In your mind, you have to cheat yourself to believe that the next time I get this fellow, 100% I'm going to win. I now have the formula to win. And it's just that the score finished before I could beat him. Next time, I'll beat him 100%. The way I look at it is, you're doing the same thing for 20 years, 30 years. You have to cheat yourself to figure out a way to work harder. You have to cheat yourself to figure out a way to feel happy about working harder. I think the bottom line is you have to cheat yourself to work harder and to cheat yourself to stay happy with whatever happiness you have. You're at work and you see the glass as half empty, saying, boss, मैं world champion बना, but मेरे को 2 साल और बनना है, 3 साल और बनना है, 10 साल और बनना है. You always come to work seeing the glasses. You're the number one company in the world. You're saying, boss, I need to be even better and better and better. That's the attitude you should have at work. But the moment you walk out, you should be happy with whatever you have. Even if you've lost first round in a tournament, you should thank God and say, boss, thank you so much. You've given me an opportunity to play and I have a life which I'm playing for. I think to be grateful is very, very important. To be satisfied is super important outside of work. You don't want satisfied people at work, but you don't want unsatisfied people at home and family and friends. So I think the switch is very critical. And that's important.
So, you spoke of being satisfied outside of work, and India looks at badminton as a very, very big thing, and increasingly, I think uh, the awareness about the sport, the number of people wanting to play the sport has really shot up. There are a lot of people who are willing to go 4 a.m. to Gopichand Academy to just go through the process and put in their very best. How do you scale this up? How do you get more gopis? Because one gopi can probably coach, I don't know, 20, 30. But India has such a huge pool of talent. How do you scale it up from the perspective of a coach?
It's not something which is easy to scale. So I think, and with many MBAs, that's the challenge which I have. Everything is not scalable. I think what I've been able to showcase is that we can do this happen in a 28, 30 years time frame. From nowhere in the world to the best in the world is possible. Now, my only hope is that people are inspired. The coaches the players whom I have coached for the last 15, 20 years, turn up as coaches and take me as an inspiration and start working, and they do their own journey and I exit out. That's what is important. So for me, luckily, in some sense, there is some hope in that direction. Because with Kashyap, Guru Sai Dutt, with Rahul, with Jayant, 4 of my singles players, Arun Vishnu, Manu Attri, Sumit Reddy, I have actually a bunch of my students who worked with me for the last 20 years have come into coaching. So I'm hoping that we will actually see those results come out in the next few years. But I think it's a very important question because and it's not only for badminton or sport, but across the board, we need to invest in coaches, in teachers, the most best people should find that that is the job for me to be, because the best people don't come up to coaching. And I think that's the best people don't come up to teaching. So we need that elevated position in society for gurus and coaches and teachers. And I think only then we will get the best there, and more people can actually do this. And yeah, scaling up, I think infrastructure scaling is the easier part. The coach and the soft skill but basically it's like two things, right? So the lack of coaches, is it an educational issue or is it a motivational issue? If you treat it as an educational issue, then your diagnosis is different. Then you're giving them courses and courses. But if you treat them as a motivation issue, then it's very different. Then the answers and the direction with which you take it is different. For me, my belief is it's a motivational issue. And once they're motivated, they will figure out the education part of it. And that would be important. So I'm hoping it'll happen. I'm doing some things in those direction, and hopefully I'll be successful to come back and tell the story of scaling up and success of scaling up.
So from the scaling up, and I will cut out the MBA jargon, but, to something personal. Now you're at a stage in life where you've achieved so much. What is your aspiration now? You're a person who's always pushed the boundaries, always created something new. What does Gopi aspire for today in 2024 and for the future?
For me, this question was a very easy question years ago. Olympic medal, World Championship medal, All England medal, Thomas Cup medal. But having got many of those things which I had aspired for, today in some sense I see the futility of it also. I think the larger issue of sport remains. I had a young girl who was about 13 years old who couldn't catch a ball 6 years ago, 8 years ago now, 2015. I threw a ball, a shuttle from this far, about 6 feet far. Catch, missed it. So what are you doing? You need to be focused. And then she comes back after the class and says, "Sir, I can't catch. Teach me how to catch." And this was like, for me, the most shocking thing. Because I would always look at a bunch of kids and say, "Boss, where is the talent? There. Pick the talent, train them insanely, and get a medal." When my only focus was those 1, 2, 3, 4 people whom I pick in this group. And suddenly this thing was like, what am I doing? And this started to bother me. And larger issues about kids, people itself. So I think when we're looking at people and saying, where is the talent? I think there's a fundamental question which we are missing. We as managers, teachers, leaders, coaches, parents, probably asking the wrong question. We should be asking, or we should be believing and knowing that all of my kids are talented. I need to find out where the talent is. I think that fundamental miss, I was banging my head and said, how could I miss such a fundamental thing in my life? I picked the one and I forgot about the 9. And I repent for doing it all the time. But I think it was such an important thing. We're probably just missing the question about sport. I think everybody needs to play sport, because lessons on failure, where does education teach us? In class, how many times do you fail? Very rarely, and never publicly. The school is not telling you that you've lost, you failed. They will say somebody failed. Public failure and failing in public is never done in any other field as much as it's in sport. So a 10-year-old comes, 2 of them play, 1 of them loses. So that's an important lesson in life. So when he gets to 30 and he doesn't get a promotion in office, or a girl rejects him or a boy rejects her, I think there is a problem because you're not ready for failure. You're not ready for accepting reality. So I think those things are very clear when you're young. If you sort this mental issue, then I think we're clearly better off. So I think there's a fundamental. So sport is very important for that reason. So I'm saying forget about the medal. Everybody needs to play for health, for life lessons, for decision making. Sport is important. So for me, my larger goal would be that the community has to play. Schools have to embrace sport. And this wasn't the pitch for me a few years back. Today, that is where I would get maximum happiness out of. It can change communities, it can actually change lives of people. And I think it's very, very important. So I'm looking at things very differently from before to now.
Thank you, Gopi. And I think this is such an amazing perspective. Uh, so, to get to that, are you consciously doing something? How are you now investing in yourself? What is it that you are undoing? What is it that you're doing? Is there some personal thing that
There
you're...
have been dilemmas in my life which are very funny because I did all of this and for a year, a few months, I was like coaching everybody. I said, forget it, that kid, that kid, that kid, everyone's come. And then excellence was, I said, forget, I don't want excellence. And then somewhere before Rio, I decided, ki, no, Rio is important. We'll do it. In fact, my mom sat me down and said, what are you doing? And since I said, no, I have a problem. I can't do this. So I went to the PM actually, told him about physical literacy. I said, we've grown alphabetically, we've grown numerically in the country, but we've gone down physically. If crawling, walking, running, throwing, jumping, diving, sliding was physical literacy, we've actually gone down physically. And our parents and grandparents are fitter than us and better physically literate, and we are more numerically and alphabetically. We are not physically. The last 30 years has seen the growth of alphabetical and numerical literacy and the drop of physical literacy. There's a fundamental issue, and it draws back to schools and all of these things. So I said, boss, if your kid can't explore the length and breadth of his physical being, how can he be a visionary? क्या बात कर रहे हो, कैसे होगा? उसको पता ही नहीं कि बॉल कितना दूर फेंकेगा. How far can a ball grow? He doesn't know. How high he can jump? He doesn't know. How fast he can run? He doesn't know. If he doesn't explore the length and breadth of his own body, how can his mind think bigger? It cannot. So I said, boss, क्या बात कर रहे हो? ये सब बेकार है, ये करना है. So then I went to the PM. I was in this dilemma. Luckily, and then we won the Olympic medal, and I see that medal inspires an entire nation. Everybody gets up the next day morning happy, inspired, and it's worth it. The effort is worth it. The inspiration is worth it. So I was like, boss, see, kya ho raha hai? On this side, there's one, this side. Then there's one quote of J.R.D. Tata, which is very important for me. He said, a nation doesn't become great by removing poverty. It becomes great when its talented few get an opportunity to become the best in the world. And this was a 1940s quote of J.R.D. Tata. And I think it made so much sense. I think the entire nation has to be removed out of this poverty of physical literacy. And the best of those kids need to be given an opportunity to inspire the rest of us. So with that as a motto, I'm actually working now with a lot more clarity what I have. So we're trying to do something at a grassroots level. We work with the Enadu Foundation. We have 60 kids in athletics because it's a easier sport with no infrastructure. 60 centers with 1,200 kids across both the Telugu states working. And out of this, there's a girl who won the Paralympic medal, Deepti Jivanji. She lives at the academy for the last 4-5 years. Last year's Asian Games heptathlon medalist, Agasari Nandini, she lives at the academy. So we have these bunch of kids from rural, tribal backgrounds who actually stay there and who've been killing it at the national level and few international tournaments. So we're doing that work there. advocacy in schools is something which I intend to do a lot more, and take this up as a policy to government to sensitize and say, boss, the new next era of education, we don't know. What we are learning in school, how useful it is for the future, we don't know. But what you learn on the playground is definitely useful for the future. Let's change the way we educate people. This is also something which we are talking about, and hopefully we'll be progressing slowly. It's like 100-storied building. I might just, in my lifetime, do the first floor or foundation of it. But in God's grace, the rest of somebody else will take it forward.
Thank you, Gopi. I think that's an amazing perspective. So we have a lot of people here and a lot of people on.
Um, I think Dr. Reddy's for me is what in the badminton field I have done is what Dr. Reddy's for me is in the pharma field or for industry in Hyderabad. For me, inspiration is a very important thing. Unfortunately, especially for us in Hyderabad, there are not many inspirational leaders from business also. It's very unfortunate that we have very few who have a clean record, and it's very important that those role models should continue. I think one hats off to you for the entire organization for the work you do. Congratulations. I think I'm very proud that I am from Hyderabad and Dr. Reddy's is from Hyderabad. This is one. The second thing I think is, I think we are all at a stage where we can risk it. It's life is a lot more secure than in the previous generations are. So let's see how far we can go when we push, is what I would think. Because the risk of failing is not as bad, and we've banked enough to actually be comfortable. So now it's time to risk it a little more. So that's how I would really feel. Third thing is, I think kids in sport, adults in sport, physical activity, I think these are important things. I think drugs for various things can happen, but I think this is like the dirt under the carpet or the water seeping under the carpet. So it's very dangerous because the next generation of them are not able to run 400 meters. 7 or 8 out of 10 kids have flat foot. So they will have bodily issues when they get to 30s and 40s. So I think sport is very important. We need to put it up there, and I need everyone to think individual, family, society, at every level to support sport. Not only for the champions and the winners, but also for everyone. When you have the next tournament in Dr. Reddy's, uh, it's not how many people who play, which is important. It's people who don't play. I think how do you make them play? I think that will be the big question, which is important.
So I think, Gopi, everybody here has a lot of questions for you. So maybe we'll open it up to the audience for any questions and answers. And I got hundreds of requests that I want to take a picture with Gopi as well. So I'm mindful that Gopi has a flight to catch. He has to leave at 6. So it's now 5:40 approximately. So probably we'll have a few questions and then we'll take 10, 15 minutes for you to just interface with the audience, yeah? So any questions? Yeah, yes.
Hello, sir. I'm Am I audible? So I am Suvidhi, and I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude for taking out time and taking us through your enlightening journey. So I just wanted to ask that at every milestone of your life that you achieved, did you had some plan B in your mind at the back of your mind, or always you had a plan A and like you were the God's favorite child? It happened. Was it like that?
I think, to be honest, I never had a plan B. And
Because I feel risking is always not very easy. And the time when you started playing badminton, not a lot of people used to participate in sports, and from families also there was not a lot of support.
um, I was not smart enough to think too much. I love to play, I played. And that was the only thing which gave me happiness.
Yeah, so you never had basically any plan
Mm,
Bs.
no, that I think for all of us as parents also, like many of you are much younger, but I think as a society also, I think when you have a plan B, then your plan A is not given 100%. The thought of a plan B is not good, but it's parents, society, which should be the safety net of the plan B. When you're targeting for the top, you only think of going up the mountain. You're not thinking of, if I slip, what will I do? If I go down, what will I do? No, you're thinking blindly that I am going. मैं तो जा ही रहा हूँ. Like in my mind, you're done. Just one example, and it sounds crazy. Sindhu was not supposed to win a medal at Rio. I was actually in Feb when we went there, Australian Open. She lost first round. And I said, boss, I'm going to train her and she's going to win a medal. And I was so good in the way I thought in my mind. And two examples I'll give. The one bad example and one, it happens that way, but you still do it. I went to the Olympics in Sydney, believing that, boss, I'm going to win the medal. And some of them had told me that if you visualize, close your eyes, visualize, it happens. Manifestation ho jata hai. Was I am sitting there and saying, drop, dribble, 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 touching the net and falling, falling, falling. And even if I close my eyes today, trust me, that image is always there. Dribble, touching the tape, falling over, touching the tape, falling. And I'm going on the podium, lifting my two hands up, and medal being given. This is favorite image. Visualization, done, done, done. I go to the Olympics, I lose. Then I'm bloody beating my head. ये क्या पागलपंती है? Because Olympics is coming once in 4 years. You're not going to win this again. It's not going to come in your life again. So you go there, you lose. And then it took me almost 2 to 3 months to come back to normality, thinking that I've lost the Olympics. I literally would face and say, "Bas, ho gaya." And then, nahi ho raha hai ye. Open your eyes. Reality, you've lost. And then 6 months later, August this happened. 6 months later, I go to the All England and I win the All England. And in my mind, what I thought was the Olympics was actually the All England. You don't get it when you want it. You get it when you deserve it. And it always comes after those failures. And after, when you think that everything is lost and you put your energies back into it, then nature has no way but to give it to you. And this is like, has to happen. But that, you have to walk that and believe that and do it. And you have to show up to work after the big loss the next day morning. I remember Saina, 11-3, she was leading quarterfinals of the Olympics. Side change, 11-3. Semi-finals was a medal at the Olympics. At 18, she loses the medal. And like, 8 months we worked for it. She loses the medal. And the next day, on the way back in the bus, I said, boss, Saina, tomorrow, like every day in the morning, we would go at 6 o'clock to the gym. And I said, Saina, next day morning, 6 o'clock, Saina, kal subah. She said, Bhaiya, please. I was imagining that she'll say no training next day morning, saying that it is okay to not come for training because it's humanly that you lost a very close match, Olympic medal, your life changing, whatever. She said, Bhaiya, please, can I come at 6:30? I think that was important. I think that attitude is what makes champions. And you have to be at it. And it cannot be like, yaar, main ye nahi chala to wo kar lunga. I think then it never works. A lot of people have that, but it doesn't work. But it's actually happens that 9 out of 10 fail. But it's the society's thing to also ensure, parents to ensure that they don't fall. But the guy who's walking has to think, boss, I am succeeding. And that will be important.
Thank you.
We probably have time for one last question. Yeah.
The second one, which I thought I'll tell us. I went to the Olympics. I had a blazer. So I said I'm going to be 70 kgs at the Olympic final. And after winning the medal, I will carry a blazer because when I won the All England, I didn't know that I will win. So I went in a t-shirt and a short, a t-shirt and a track pant, and I walked out of the Indira Gandhi terminal in Delhi, and everybody is waiting, and I am wearing t-shirt and track pant and coming because I was not prepared for it. So I said when we went to Rio, boss, मैं ऐसा फिट करूँगा कि ब्लेजर लेके जाऊँगा, तो मैं आते समय मेडल जीतने के बाद ब्लेजर के साथ ही आना है. So I had actually planned my coming back from Rio with the medal in my mind that this is going to happen. Now, when it hits back, it is bad. But somehow figure it out. But next time you still cheat yourself to believe, ab ho raha hai. And I think it's very important that you trust it and go after it as though you're done it. Ho gaya. And you behave that way, then it'll happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we have time for one last question because it's 5:46. So,
Deepak, can
okay. Yeah, Fanny, please.
hello. Gopi, it's just such a joy listening to you. I don't want to repeat that, but all the MBA jargon apart, we kind of throw, all the big picture at people. But there is a very distinct gap between being there 90%, 95%, and to actually cross the line and do it 100%. When you're coaching kids and when you're coaching the folks, right? How do you tell them the importance of those little things? Because it's not done till it's done. And then many of us, we're almost there, we nearly are there and so on. But this little things and taking care of everything till you actually are there onto the other side of the line, how do you teach that? Is there a ritual that you follow? Is there something that you kind of tell people the importance of this?
I think the sad news is some of it is the opening balance when what you're born with. Unfortunately, that's also a reality. And not everything is trainable. Even the ability to train is a quotient which you're born with. So there's nothing in our life to be very proud of because Bhagwan ne diya hi hai. So that's how I would really treat it. Many of us, there are very simple things which happen, which actually mess up. In the sense, I remember Olympics, for example. We would be with the athlete 24/7. When I say 24/7, it's almost 24/7. And then we are staying in the same apartment so that nobody comes and spoils their way. So everything went off well. Sindhu's example, if I were to give, Rio, or Saina's example, I can give. Sindhu, so every day, myself, Kiran, or Subodh, three of us would be there all the time, ensuring that she was with the food, nobody is there, training, we are there, so that ensuring that the protection is there. Somebody sneaks into the room, apartment, when I'm not there because I went to the Olympic accreditation office to find out when the matches and bus schedule was. So these guys come in and they said something very nice. Next day final है, और हम आपके लिए पूजा कर रहे हैं. And in all of our mandirs, it was one spiritual organization. We are doing puja for you tomorrow, and we'll all be praying for you, and this is the prasad. Very nice thing, right? And I come in and I literally shouted at him. I said, "Buddy, get out from here." Like, I was furious because what he has done is he's come there and told that you match is watched by a million Indians or billion Indians, and then they are going to pray for you. So if you walk into a match and say, "Boss, so many people are thinking about me, watching me, what will happen to my life if I win? I'll get 7 crores, 10 crores. What will happen if I lose?" Then your hand is shivering. You'll never be able to play. I think as somebody, what we can do is around to ensure that these filters are kind of maximized. Filters are maximized so that the input is very simple and you treat it like another sporting day. So when you win, it's very important that we don't idolize them too much. And when we lose, we don't demonize them too much. I think that thing is important because at the end of the day, the process is king. The result is only a byproduct of the good processes you've done. And that for me is maturity of the system. And if we don't do that, then we struggle with champions not living and stretching themselves. Or us, when we produce the champion, the guy who's shooting is saying, "Boss, ye 10 crore ka shoot hai." Boss, haath kampega hi kampega. Many of them fail because they're imagining the medal before it's done. And the hand is shivering. The thinking the celebration before it's done, the hand is shivering. So I think to treat win and loss with a very minimal up and down is very critical. And I think we need to practice it from a young age, from a cultural perspective in the system. I think that would be important. Yeah.
Thank you, Gopi. Thank you so much. So we have just about 10 minutes. So first of all, I think we want to thank you and just give you a small token of our appreciation. Abira, if you could just get that. And then, for those of you, those multiple WhatsApps that I've got, I want to take a photo with Gopi. I hope and request you will oblige and it'll be okay with you. So, Erez, if you could just come up on stage and hand this over to Gopi. You
put it on.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. Gopi, thank you so much. And maybe those of you who want to interact with Gopi or whatever, you can come up on stage or you want to. Yeah. So thank you everyone for a great audience. And once again, a big round of applause for Gopi. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Enjoy talking to you.
It's a wrap for day one of the Distinguished Speaker Series. We'll see you again tomorrow.